Hi, I'm Francis, and we welcome you to the 2011 Handmade Bike Show. We have our first interview in this super awesome show, and it's an old friend of Road Bike Review, Eric Estland from Winter Bicycles.
Thank you. Hi.
So Eric, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Sure.
What's your volume? How you got started in this business?
Sure. My name is Eric Estland. I run Winter Bicycles in Springfield, Oregon. It's just me. I do all the metal work. Keith Anderson does my paint. I do probably in the neighborhood of about 30 plus bikes a year, give or take. Just depends on volume and how intricate the projects are.
Right.
Yeah, and I've been doing this pretty much full time since about 2008, give or take. So
right on, right on. Yeah. So what do you specialize in, or what do people just beeline towards you for?
Well, I think the thing that I specialize in most explicitly is tailoring bike for an individual, and then really addressing the customer service needs and figuring out what that person's needs and wants are in a bike. As far as the end product, I do some race bikes, I do cross and road bikes and track bikes. I think, at least currently, the biggest volume of orders are things kind of like this, where they're what I call high-performance non-racing bikes. They still have a very performance bent, but designed to be more versatile for that rider's daily use. Pretty much their everyday bike.
Right. An everyday bike that's not sluggish, that will perform.
Yeah, yeah, and that's actually where the name Winter comes from as well. It's the idea of not having an off-season for your bike. So having a bike that rides full year. So that's where things like this come along. So I'll build you a snow bike, but it's year-round bikes.
A year-round bike. A lot of people have a rain bike or a snow bike.
Or their winter bike.
Which is a
that's
junker.
my idea. Yep.
which I can't go fast in it. It's just my no-good bike.
Yeah.
But so you kind of break the mold on that one.
I do. I like it. You know, most people that are commuters or they're sport ride. I mean, a lot of people get the bulk of their riding in not in a race situation.
Exactly.
So I like the idea
80% or 90% of the miles.
So for those 90%, you might as well have a bike you really enjoy riding that fits you well, that meets your needs, and that's what I specialize in.
Exactly. So what are some of the challenges or some of the most exciting things about your work that you've encountered?
Sure. I think the challenges are mostly in the work itself. You know, I think probably everybody in this room is a perfectionist to some degree. So really trying to get the best physical work and then the best work for that rider. Especially the types of bikes that I do, it's bikes where every bike's a compromise in design. So it's really choosing the appropriate compromise that's a benefit, and really, you know, it hits the points that rider needs and wants. And I think that's a big challenge, is working through the customer service end of working with a customer, getting their bike tailored to what their needs are. So not so much how to do it, that's pretty easy for me. It's figuring out what they really want.
Extracting out of them what they want.
Yeah, what they want and what they want for what they really are going to do with the bike.
Right.
You know, if somebody wants a race bike and they're really going to race it, great. If somebody wants a race bike and they want to tour on it, well, that's maybe a conversation we should work through and really make the best bike that's going to meet their particular needs.
Right. That's an interesting phrase you used, compromise in design.
Yeah.
Understand in the beginning actually helps you come up with a better end product.
Yeah, yeah, and I think compromise, the word gets sort of a bad rap. You know, I think, but it's true. I mean, you have to make certain compromises to tease out the rider benefits, and that's the fun part for me, is really working on getting a bike that's most specifically what that person really wants and needs.
Exactly. That's an art form as well. Yeah. So tell us about this bike.
Sure. So this is an example of that. This was a bike I built for a gentleman in Eureka, California. He actually drove up and did a fitting, which was great, and is probably going to drive up or train up and then ride the bike home after the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's a fun bike.
What a story.
And he's a great example of that. He's a guy that gets the bulk of his miles doing commuting, riding to work, going, you know, he's got a long ride that he wants the bike for, but he's also enjoys fun, fast road rides, and he enjoys longer weekend tours. So those are traditionally three very different bikes. What I try to do is build him a bike that hits all of those in a way where he gets what he wants out of each of those activities without giving up things for the other one. So it's a fairly light, fairly springy sort of ride. It's of moderate stiffness so that it's not a total pig when it doesn't have a lot of bags on it. The front end is designed so that with a modest front load, it'll handle well. If you don't ride with those bags, it will, you know, it'll still descend well, it'll still climb well. It's a little bit longer rear end, so he can take modest size rear pannier for his daily commute or for shorter tours, or ride unloaded. So this is just a great example of a bike that was trying to fit 3 traditionally different categories in one just really versatile bike. It's just a really good all-around bike for him and his needs.
Right. The what kind of steel did you use? And I noticed you're using lugs as well.
Yeah, so I build exclusively with steel, and then within that I do fillet brazed bikes, I do traditionally lug bikes, and then I do a lot of essentially a hybrid bilaminate construction where I make the lug. This is a traditionally lug bike that was rider preference, both with a very gently sloping, this is about a 1.5 degree, 2 degree slope to the top tube. Worked really well with traditional diameter pipes, so it was a great setup for him. This is pretty typical of most of my builds in that it's not a single tube set, it's kind of a rider specific thing. I pick a top tube for a rider, a down tube for their application, and I mix and match from pretty much every steel manufacturer. Yeah, so this bike is most likely, not most likely, this is mostly a True Temper and Dedica mix. That's pretty common for me.
Well, wonderful. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
I think we're off to a good start to the show. And
yeah, it's a good day for it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.